relationship up. And by that, a lot of people were injured. And I was injured irreparably. My reputation. They financed the whole scheme. They conceived the entire scheme and concocted the entire scheme, and it's all false.
Trammell wouldn't comment on his problems with the Alabama Bar Association. He was suspended from practice in Alabama several weeks ago in connection with this same parole scandal. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Montgomery County Courthouse.
The suit involves about 140 acres northeast of Montgomery, divided into 30 lots. The lots were auctioned off last November, and now, more than a half year later, some lot owners are saying portions of their purchasing agreements have still not been met. Judson Gardner bought 6 acres of the land.
They promised us water in the road and the right-of-way to get in and a clear deed on it. We don't have any of it.
Montgomery attorney Jerry Beasley is representing the owners of the land in a class action suit filed against the previous owner and 2 companies. Beasley says the suit alleges fraud and misrepresentation, that the buyers of the land were promised a good road, water lines, and a sewage system. And Beasley says none of those promises have been fulfilled.
In fact, they find that they may not even own the property due to the fact that there are some 5 mortgages on the property. And,
Beasley says the lawsuit names the J.P. King Auction Company, Buddy Bone Realty, and the man who used to own the land, Montgomery attorney Kenneth Hemphill. His law partner, Eric Bowen, who says he's representing Hemphill, says there's been a grave misunderstanding. Bowen says plans to provide water to the area have been held up by problems with the contractor. Bowen says there's been no misrepresentation, and he hopes the matter can be quickly resolved. So does Garner. He says he can't afford to spend any more money clearing and preparing the land for 2 trailers he wants to move in, at least not until he knows if he really owns it.
At this point, it would be foolish to go ahead and sink more money in it, not knowing where I'm going to get a deed to it.
The suit asks for $1.5 million in punitive damages. Mr. Gardner says he's not really interested in the money. He just wants what he paid for. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
One of the reforms the governor has been campaigning for around the state is a package of bills that would close what the governor is calling loopholes in the criminal laws. But as of last night, the governor changed his mind about including the package of bills. The governor's legislative liaison, Bob Getty, says the governor is concerned about any opposition to the package of crime bills drawing too much attention away from the primary thrust of the session, reforms to state employee and teacher retirement benefits. In a letter to legislators, the governor asked their support for the retirement reforms and says he's committed to dealing with the issue even if it takes several special sessions to resolve the matter. The governor has thrown another bill into the call, one that would allow voluntary public school prayer. The governor says he's including the public school prayer bill in order to follow the direction of President Reagan's announcement last month to offer a constitutional amendment to allow prayer in public schools. While the president's announcement drew some reserved response, the governor's bill could as well, since it offers a specific prayer to be used. The identical bill was offered during last special session, but never reached a House vote because of attention focused on the reapportionment issue. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
The Establishment Clause, which says that government or Congress shall pass no law establishing religion. In 1962, there was a case very similar, I assume, to this law, where the New York State Regent's prayer, which was a non-denominational prayer, was struck down as unconstitutional under the First Amendment. And I would assume that if this bill is similar to the bill that was introduced late in this year's session, that it would be immediately struck down by a lower federal court, and there would be really no point in appealing it.
The Bullock Propane distributor Tony Gibson says liquid propane gas costs 69 cents a gallon. It's used mainly for vehicles, such as delivery trucks that consume large quantities of fuel. Gibson says propane would not be energy efficient for most cars that average from 2,000 to 5,000 miles a year. If thinking about using the fuel, Gibson says your car's engine must be converted for propane use. He says the Ford Motor Company has made a car that'll burn propane and has a fleet of trucks that are filled up with the liquid gas. Gibson says it's sold cheaply because it's produced domestically.
Most of your propane is derived from a natural gas well states, and it's not refined from crude oil. And most of it is domestic, is produced in the United States. We do not have to import but about 2%.
The propane display is part of the Montgomery Home Builders Association's Home Products Show at the Eastdale Mall.
Derived
Kim Davis,
from
WSFA
gas well
TV News.
States, and it's not refined from crude oil.
One of Judson Gardner's neighbors is gradually clearing out the woods on his land. Another has built a road through the woods and constructed a large shed. Gardner was clearing some of his land, but now he's stopped. He's afraid he may have the land taken away from him, because more than a half year after he says he bought the land, he still doesn't have a deed. Gardner's 6-acre lot is just part of 140 acres northeast of Montgomery, sold last November as 30 lots. But not having a deed is just one of Gardner's worries. He is also missing water at his new land. Montgomery attorney Jerry Beasley is representing Gardner and the rest of the landowners in a class action suit against the J.P. King Auction Company, Buddy Bone Realty, and the former owner of the land, another Montgomery attorney, Kenneth Hemphill. Beasley says the new owners of the land were promised a good road to their property, water lines, and a sewage system. Beasley says they've received none of those things so far. Hemphill's law partner, Eric Bowen, who says he represents Hemphill, says it's all a grave misunderstanding, that there's been no misrepresentation. He says the only reason there's no water to the area is because of problems with the contractor for the job. Bowen says he hopes the whole problem over the land can be resolved very soon. So does Gardner. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
Mr. Whitney, would you step this way, please? We'd like to get a picture of you. Elisha J. Whitney, you know, Wall Street.
Okay, this, Mr. Whitney. Who's next?
Yourself.
Yes, Henry T. Dobson is the name. D.C. Ph.D. LLD. Who's next, Tom?
Got a missionary and a couple of Christians over here.
All right. Nobody's read that stuff. Get us a gal.
That former evangelist. There is no longer anything exclusive about an Atlantic crossing.
Commissioner Joe Hopper of our penitentiary system. This check will go to equip the hospital and the new penitentiary with the exception of an x-ray machine. Joe, I'm very pleased to be able to do this for the penitentiary people.
Well, thank you very much. And in a lighter vein, I would like to say that after...
Yeah, must have.
And hopefully we can build a few more beds and we can lock a few more up and keep them there. Thank you very much.
Okay, Joe. Appreciate it. Y'all have any questions?
Our country was founded on the family unit. Today, however, everything seems to be working toward changing the family unit, toward destroying the family unit. I'm alarmed by the large number of children removed from their homes and made wards of the state. I will make it my first priority to reverse this trend. I believe the family court can make substantial contributions toward reducing the high divorce rate in Montgomery County and in keeping families intact.
I'm here today at the office of the state auditor to announce that I am qualified. The people deserve total commitment and total dedication in their elected officials. Since the auditor is responsible for auditing receipts and disbursements of over $7 billion, including the records of the Treasurer's Office, I see that my record shows the independence, integrity, and experience that the people of the state of Alabama deserve.
The photographs that were seized and the magazines that were seized were all First Amendment materials. They were seized pursuant to a search warrant that didn't have anything to do with First Amendment materials. They weren't provided any Fourth Amendment First Amendment hearings after the seizure, nor did they have a search warrant to seize any photographs or any written materials. It flies in the face of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Did you appeal this case to state court first?
Yes, I exhausted the state remedies. We went to the Court of Criminal Appeals. We got a long opinion that talked about how bad the crime was and very little about the law. We took it to the Supreme Court of Alabama, and they affirmed the Court of Criminal Appeals with no opinion. They didn't want to touch it. And I guess because of the notoriety that these people were given and the type of offense we're talking about. But regardless of the offense, the law of the United States is the law for them, is the law for you, it's the law for me. And they shouldn't be treated differently. They should be afforded their constitutional rights just like anybody else.
There was a particularly warm reception for the governor in Opelika, his hometown. For the governor provided an upbeat end to his campaign for reform issues that many say are doomed during a political election year. The governor says he sees a different response.
I believe the people of Alabama, the more that understand it, the more that will demand that these reforms be put in. This is an election year. You got candidates running around. As I made reference, we built that fence around this state, and everybody's going to have to face the issues. So with that setting and that backdrop, yes, I'm optimistic. I know we've got our work cut out for us, but I'm optimistic.
But the governor's persuasiveness is more importantly to be measured among the House and Senate members who will vote on his reforms.
I haven't talked to any legislator that gave me a flat turn down. I've talked to many that said yes, and some that said they were leaning our way, because what is there to object to?
The governor's pitch to the hometown audience was as emotional as the first versions he delivered to audiences last week in South Alabama. And the governor provided a little more insight as to what motivated him to include a public school prayer bill that will be sponsored by Representative Shelby Dean Ward. The governor says it was a lawsuit involving 2 Mobile County school teachers.
And what they were guilty of is on a picnic or eat at lunch, one of the teachers said the blessing. She said, God is good, God is great, and we thank him for our food. And the result of that is a $115,000 lawsuit against the principals, the school system down there, and those teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, that has gone too far.
The pressure from the audience for some commitment to run for re-election was stronger at this meeting than it has been in other places. The governor maintained his unswaying ability to keep the public guessing. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News in Opelika.
The concerned citizens, I felt a change was needed. My wife and I prayerfully considered this matter and decided that we should offer ourselves as a candidate for. Our country was founded on the family unit. Today, however, everything seems to be working toward changing the family unit, toward destroying the family unit. I am alarmed by the large number of children removed from their homes and made wards of the state. I will make it my first priority to reverse this trend. I believe the family court can make substantial contributions toward reducing the high divorce rate in Montgomery County and in keeping families intact.
Photographs that were seized and the magazines that were seized were all First Amendment materials. They were seized pursuant to a search warrant that didn't have anything to do with First Amendment materials. They weren't provided any Fourth Amendment First Amendment hearings after the seizure, nor did they have a search warrant to seize any photographs or any written materials. It flies in the face of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution.
Did you appeal this case to state court first?
Yes, I exhausted the state remedies. We went to the Court of Criminal Appeals. We got a long opinion that talked about how bad the crime was and very little about the law. We took it to the Supreme Court of Alabama, and they affirmed the Court of Criminal Appeals with no opinion. They didn't want to touch it. And I guess because of the notoriety that these people were given and the type of offense we're talking about. But regardless of the offense, the law of the United States is the law for them, is the law for you, it's the law for me. And they shouldn't be treated differently. They should be afforded their constitutional rights just like anybody else.
The governor readily admits the idea of asking politicians to run the risk of upsetting the politically strong teacher and state employee organizations is a difficult thing to do, but he says this is the third time he's offered a retirement reform measure. The governor says the legislature failed to act during off-election years, so why not during an election year? But many political observers say it's a noble concept that's doomed to die.
I have heard that, and I think that it's time that we pass some noble concepts, because I think our failure to pass noble concepts is what ails the country today. So I don't accept that at all. What that is saying to me is because a direction is right and will be difficult to change directions. I'm just not made that way.
You're optimistic that he's been able to swing public support into pressuring legislators to implement the retirement reform. The governor's already beginning to talk about the next series of special sessions planned for later this summer. The governor says he's excited about forcing what he calls long overdue reform issues into the election year politics. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News in Opelika.
I also think it proposes an unfair proposition.
Way I think where that thing will live.
That's what I was thinking. Well, maybe it'll work through the window.
Joe Hopper of our penitentiary system. This check will go to equip the hospital and the new penitentiary that will be equipped that entire hospital there, present hospital there, with the exception of an x-ray machine. Joe, I'm very pleased to be able to do this for the penitentiary people.
Well, thank you very much. And in a lighter vein, I would like to say that after many years of slamming cell doors and locking people up and fighting their release, I'm glad to see you finally make a monetary contribution toward keeping them there. Seriously, this money will be used as it
must have
in our St. Clair County facility. The total cost for medical equipment at that facility is $155,000.
I have worked to keep the record straight and meet my commitments to my family, my employer, and my friends, and to my community. I have given my best, and now I want to give my best to keep the record straight for the people of Alabama. I want to offer my experience, my maturity, and my abilities to the people of this great state. I want to give my total commitment as the next state auditor of Alabama.
Reporters were offered an opportunity today to talk to an official of a private actuarial firm, a company that inspects the financial impact of retirement formulas, plans, and benefits. The Wyatt Company actuary employee, Mike Carter, was there specifically to counter allegations that offering employees cash refunds to accept lowered benefits would jeopardize the integrity of the retirement systems.
It's because through the option to reduce the benefit formula, your actuarial liability, the liability that the state has to meet in the future, will actually decrease more than what the assets are going to decrease by refunding the contributions. So the net position of the system itself will be improved, and the more members who elect either of the two options, either of the two refund options, the better off the system becomes.
And the governor's staff produced a letter from the actuary used by the retirement system, Buck & Associates, showing they too agreed with the governor that the reform would reduce future liabilities.
As those new hires are coming on and stay in service.
The bill was brought in to
so what about the existing
employees to keep their current benefits with no penalties?
If they do this meeting,
would have up to
so that each of it, given the extraordinary level of funds that it takes to which option is best for them, based on their own judgment.
We did this in March as volunteers sitting at night on the soil. We get out of the weather 65, 70, 50 degrees. It will not spoil. Get the cheese.
I really don't think that winning is the biggest part of it. You know, we try not to think of it, junior misses, as winning. I don't think it's that tough. We just all have a good time.
What is the most important part then to you going?
I think the most important part is the emphasis on excellence, saying these ladies are well balanced, they have their head on straight. You know, it's not a beauty pageant, and that's the most important thing about it.
What do you strive for in being a junior miss, or even being in a junior miss pageant? If you were going to tell somebody what they should really try to strive for, what would it be?
To be yourself and be natural and enjoy every minute. Sort of like being a goodwill ambassador.
That's easier said than done sometimes because there's a lot of competition, I know. What can you do to make yourself calm down when you get there?
Be yourself, be natural. That's what we keep pushing. Just be natural. Junior misses are different type ways. Pageant entirely different from others.
Really know exactly. I think the survey is over with for all practical purposes. However, our monetary situation depends on how we're doing it. I'm concerned about the ad valorem tax that we're facing the citizens of this state, and certainly I resent the fact that the federal courts can come in here and hodgepodge and go out and try to equalize taxes in an unethical manner. And I'm concerned about that, and we're going to address that problem as I continue to serve in the Alabama State Senate. That is one of the things that I'm concerned about. Another thing that I'm concerned about is unemployment in this state, and also the development of new industry. And I think that we ought to have one of the best Alabama development offices in this state so that our people have opportunity for jobs.
In addition to pleading guilty, Mr. Wiggins has made a payment of restitution, which is, of course, a form of punishment in this case, and has turned over to this office for return to the victim, Royal Products, certificates of deposit totaling $150,000. We believe that this is the largest amount of restitution ever recovered in the state of Alabama. This has been a long, hard investigation led by investigators Cliff Rowe, Skip Graffinini, and Emmett Dixon, the White Collar Crime Unit, and we are pleased to have been able to help private industry, in particular Royal Products, with this investigation.
Hey, Bob. How are you? Glad to see you. Glad to see you. So glad to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Good. Good.
I feel that way about you. Up to the Washington.
I know wherever you are that you'll love and appreciate it here.
Well, I certainly need to my very own.
It works everywhere in town, let me tell you. And I hope that you are indeed successful in your venture to be Miss America, we check.
I certainly intend to be.
Well, that's great. We all want to help you do it, too.
Thank you so much.
This award is made to an individual.
They won a national award. This is the highest honor that a person can. Right here we have a special award we'd like to put at your.
To the C.M. Opry and Son Incorporation of Addison, Alabama. And accepting this award for this great organization is Mr. Edward Gearhart. Mr. Gearhart.
It's been a fierce campaign waged by the governor's office, and today's news conference was no exception.
The AEA and the State Employees Association have misrepresented the facts, they've distorted the issues, and they've told some downright lies about this bill.
One of the so-called downright lies the governor's staff attempted to counter today was
decrease by refunding the contributions. So the net position of the system itself will be improved, and the more members who elect either of the two options, either of the two refund options, the better off the system becomes. And through this, by being better off, that translates into a lesser cost for...
enforced by a letter from the retirement systems consultants who also said liabilities would be decreased by the reform. And former Finance Director John Papanastis, who authored the bill, was there to go over the intricacies of the bill point by point and answer questions. While the staff says it feels the facts are on their side, they admit the pressures of the teacher and state employee organizations on legislators to defeat the bill are difficult to overcome.
Our response has been positive. It's been more positive than it has been in the past. I can't say that we have the votes yet because we don't. Great deal to say
says it hopes public pressure
about
in
the
support of the
governor's
bill will
proposed
overcome the pressure of those special
retirement
interest
system
groups.
reform.
Have seen some of
WSFA TV
the
News
figures
at the
that
Capitol.
the Wyatt Company has prepared for the
And get in this office here, again on behalf of the members of the Department of Public Safety, driver's license commander.
See some others that limped around here when they fell through the trailer, when the floors fell through the trailers in the temporary.
We've dreamed about, and that you've dreamed about in this area, to finally come to reality. It's a privilege for all of us in the
This one lady, she gave.
We're trying to raise about $10,000 to raise money for our new uniforms that are coming in. We're going to have about 225 people in the band this year, and for that we're going to require about 50 more new uniforms, and they're ranged about $170 a piece.
Okay, go ahead and get them for me.
You can get them?
Yeah.
It's good.
I'll be glad to do that if you'd like.
Okay. I got a few questions here.
Okay. Be glad to.
What I was going to ask you was, of course, what's the purpose for...
Bama Volkswagen's sales pitch was brash, jazzy, and caught the attention of just about everybody in central Alabama when new management took over last year. This week, Bama Volkswagen caught everybody's attention again by suddenly and unexpectedly closing its doors.
Many discovered that the dealership was no longer doing business the hard way when they took cars in for servicing. Rumors about the closing abound. Facts are very difficult to find. We tried to contact the manager, Manny Messenger. We called and left messages for 3 days. We still haven't heard from him. First Alabama Bank had loaned Bama Volkswagen the money for its stock of cars, so we called First Alabama. A bank official's only response was, and I'm quoting now, First Alabama would prefer not to comment at this time.
So the question of what happened at Bama Volkswagen remains unanswered tonight. One thing is for certain, the doors are closed at the best place to deal, partner. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Take part in getting this office here, again on behalf. Driver's license commander for the Dothan House.
Here we will have facilities for the entire department. The driver's license division, the investigative division, all branches of the ABI division, as well as the highway patrol, and I mentioned the driver's license, the service division, the safety education officer. So there's 5 divisions in the department, but the administrative division does not have anyone represented here in the building, but the other 4 divisions are represented.
Bradshaw has been and continues to be very outspoken about the possibility of a strike in the NFL, and he leaves no doubt where he stands on the issue.
I hate strikes. I don't see what good you can come by striking, and I was born in a family that's been anti-strike, so I've just kind of grew up with it, and I'm opposed to it. I think grown-ups can settle things, and I hate to see a strike. It's not necessary, and I think the 2 grown sides would sit down and settle this thing, but I don't see how it's going to happen. They won't even get together, and we've got July 15th coming up on us, and take a miracle right now. I think our association just wants to strike, and I think they want to show unity, and I guess everybody walks out. So, I hate it, but I guess it's the way it's going to be.
Bradshaw has been quoted as saying if there were a strike, he would cross the picket line to play. But he says that depends on his teammates.
I just so happened that I've got a contract with Dan Rooney that says I play football for the Steelers this year. Ed Garvey didn't negotiate it for me. I did it myself, and I have it with him. It says I play football. Ed Garvey tells me I'm going to strike, I got to strike, Well, I disagree with that. But if my team walks out, and I've talked to him after I made the statements, I haven't changed a bit. I'd lead that bandwagon. I'd be the first one there. But if there's nobody there, what good am I doing?
It was a day for peaches and a day for politicians, and there were plenty of both at the annual Peach Festival in Clanton today. There was barbecue and politics, balloons and politics, a foot race, and a whole lot of people running. The Peach Festival is sponsored each year by the Clanton JCs and traditionally draws hundreds of people from around the state. This being an election year, that means hundreds of potential votes for candidates for public office. And the candidates were there, with buttons, badges, pins, and hats, making speeches and shaking hands, sometimes even with each other.
Hello there, Mr. Speaker. Glad to see you.
But despite all the politics, Peaches still took a fair share of the spotlight. The whole festival started Thursday with the start of the annual Peach Queen contest. The winner reigned over today's activities, along with the winner of the Little Miss Peach competition. One event that always draws a lot of attention is the auctioning off of the prize-winning peaches. Jerry Harrison won $200 for entering his first prize basket of peaches.
1,500. I sold it to Randall Marcos, $1,450. First Alabama.
And that's right, $1,450 for the fruit. The day's slate of events also included a parade this morning and a rodeo tonight. All in all, it was a chance for people from all over the state to look at and sample baskets of fresh Chilton County peaches. And it was an opportunity for political candidates to check out not only the peaches, but each other's campaigns as well. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
But these are beautiful peaches out.
About 25 people showed up this morning at the Governor's House Motel. The Alabama group hopes to elect new officers for the party and nominate at least 3 statewide candidates for public office to run in the fall election. The Libertarian Party is relatively small in Alabama with only about 100 full-time members. Clark says the Libertarian Party is based on Jeffersonian democracy of small government, low taxes, and the right of individuals. Clark says his party believes the U.S. should not meddle in the affairs of other countries and says President Reagan deserves poor marks in both his foreign and economic policies.
I would fail the Reagan administration. They were elected to office on a program of cutting spending. They have increased spending by at least $70 billion a year. They've had massive increases in military spending. They've had big increases in subsidies to industry and agriculture, and they have not revived the economy. They are borrowing at least $100 billion from the private sector every year, and that's what drives interest rates up. That's why people can't buy cars or houses. That's why businesses can't hire people to carry inventories. So they have done very bad things to the economy by increasing the spending just as the Carter people did.
Clark says the key to getting the U.S. economy back on the road to recovery is through further budget cuts.
What the Reagan program really does is to take a few $1 billion from welfare spending and put it into military spending without reducing spending at all. It's not a very helpful program.
This is what lady she gave.
We're trying to raise about $10,000 to raise money for our new uniforms that are coming in. We're going to have about 225 people in the band this year, and for that we're going to require about 50 more new uniforms, and they're ranged about $170 a piece.
Okay, go ahead and get them.
Can you get them?
Yeah.
It's good.
I'll be glad to do that makes it a difference.
I got a few questions here.
Okay, be glad to.
What I was going to ask you was, of course, what's the purpose for